Okay, test review over rational expressions. You're simplifying by multiplying, not adding, so you don't do the CD. You're not trying to get a common denominator. Okay, multiplication, you extend the line, you make 3 of your own lines over there. Okay, now you got to put things in parentheses. Okay, so this goes in parentheses. So does this. So does this. The reason why they go in parentheses is because you see plus signs here, minus sign there, plus sign. Okay, now all that stuff needs to be factored in multiplication. So you have 3x to the second plus 4x plus 1. Okay, so that's 3 terms, so that's GCFT. Okay, so there's no x on the end, there's no negative in front. 3, 4, and 1 are only in row 1, so you wouldn't do it. So the AC product, 3 times 1, that's 3. It's positive, so we have to have a match of the signs, negative, negative, and you add to try to get to the B, which is positive 4. 3 divided by 1 is 3, right there, that's negative 4, so you have it, you just have to switch them to positive, positive. Now your A coefficient is not, you can't go XX on this because the A coefficient is 3x to the second. So we know that the x second is x times itself, but what about the 3? Well, I put in my parentheses, I put in positive 1, positive 3, then XX, then we put a 3 in front of it. Now you simplify. 3 and 1 can't be simplified, so that's just going to stay the same. 3 and 3 are divided by 3. They need to be. Now, this 3 I'm dividing by, we do not put that outside. Okay, outside is if you do the GCF, which I clearly did not do. Okay, so you cross that whole thing out and forget it. So you do not, that 3 you're dividing by does not come outside. It's just 3x plus 1 times 1x plus 1. Get rid of the 1 off the x, you keep the 3. Okay, 1x needs to be written as x. So this is written as this. This is replaced with this. I mean, if you FOIL, you have 3x second, then 3x and 1x makes 4x, 1 and 1 makes 1. So you do not bring that number you're dividing by outside. So you replace this with this. Cross that out, and over here you replace it with 3x plus 1 times x plus 1. Okay, then also on top we have x is second plus 12x plus 8x plus 12. Okay, so that's 3 terms. So that would be GCF and the table. So no x on the end, no negative in front, it's just 1, so we're not doing that. Okay, 1 times 12 is 12. Okay, so 12 positive, that's a match of the signs. But since this time we have to add to positive 8, it'll be positive, positive. 1 and 12 is 13. 2 and 6 is 8. There you go. So your A, the x second coefficient is 1. Okay. Then you go x times x and you apply a 1 in front of each of them. Because it's 1x second. Well, you can't simplify that. Or that. So really the 1's just come off the x's and we have x plus 2 times x plus 6. Okay. Cross that out and x plus 2, x plus 6. Okay. Now, bottom you have x to the second minus 4. Okay, so that's 2 terms. So that's GCF DOPS. Okay, no x, no negative 1, and 4 is 1. We're not going to do it. Now minus, you have the option of taking the 1 away as long as if it's a 1. 1 is a perfect square. It's 1 times 1. So is x seconds. So it's 1x, 1x, and then 4 is 2 times 2. Get them 1s off the x's. You didn't do a GCF, so you don't have anything outside. So it's x plus 2 times x minus 2. Okay, then you have the issue of the x plus 1. Okay, it's 2 terms, so it'd be GCF and DOPS. Out of all the problems, this one takes the longest. Okay, GCF's 1. It's not a DOPS, so really that's a prime expression. We just cross it off and bring it over the same as it was. Now, start crossing off your parentheses. You don't have 3x plus 1 on bottom. You have x plus 1. You have x plus 2 on both of them, and that's it. So these 3 parentheses go down here in my answer. So 3x plus 1, x plus 6, and then x minus 2. Now, this is for simplifying outside. Well, there's no outsides on top. There's no outside factors on bottom. Nothing's outside, so you delete that, and this is the answer. Okay. Now, number 2, multiplication. You extend the line. You don't try to get a comment, make 3 of your own lines over there. Now, you know how I was parenthesizing here? Well, this doesn't get a parentheses. So bring it over, straight over. Because there's no plus or minus inside of that. There's no plus or minus inside of that. Bring that straight over. You see a plus or minus inside that? Nope, don't parenthesize it. Bring it straight over. Then bring that straight over. So there's no parentheses like there was in the last problem. So now you go to this step here and simplify the outer. Now you got to simplify the top. You have a factor of 10, and that's the only coefficient you have. Then x fourth times x is x to the 5th, and then we have y to the 4th. Now down under we have 2 coefficients, 3 and 6. You times those, not add them. 3 times 6 is 18. Now we have an x and an x to the 2nd. We times those, that's x to the 3rd, and then a y second and a y, that's y to the 3rd. Now, you simplify the 10 over the 18 by dividing by the GCF of 10 and 18. It's 2, okay? 2, here's 10, here's 18, so it'd be by 2. So that becomes a 5, that becomes a 9, and you bring that down. X fifth, x third, you take out the smaller, minus the from the other side, that's 2. So x2 would be on top. Take that out, minus 1. You'd have y to the 1st on top. You can write y to the 1st, or it's just y. Okay, now you're solving equations. Okay, you're finding what x would equal. So here's an equal sign, and I just have one ratio on each side. It's a proportion, okay? So I go A times B. That's going to equal C times D, okay? So I make a equal sign, and then I make 2 parentheses on each side of the equation. This side I'll be taking the A times the C, so it'll be 1 times 7x. On this problem I'll be taking the C times the D. It'll be 2 times x plus 5. So you just distribute 1 times 7x is 7x. Then 2 times 1x and 2 times 5, so it's 2x plus 10. Now, after the parentheses have all been gone, write down here what you have for x. You just have x. You don't have x to the 2nd, just x to the 1st. So that's one answer, and you apply linear properties, not a square root, because it's not x to the 2nd. Okay, you have just one type of x. Okay, linear properties. So take out one of the x's. I'll go with this one. So now I know that 5 times x would equal 10, and then I divide by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Okay, next problem. 12 over x to the second minus 1 plus 2 equals 3x over x plus 1. Now, make this so it has a fraction. Just leave the denominator empty. You don't need to put a 1 under it. Okay. Now there's three ratios, okay, including one side where you have adding. So this one you will not be able to do the A, B, C, D. You will have to do your common denominator. Okay, so you extend the three lines and write the fraction plus fraction equals fraction. Now the tops you just drop. Now do any of them need parentheses? No, that's just a 12. No, it's just a 2. No, that's just a 3 times x. There's no plus or minus on top of anything. Now the bottom you don't just drop. You put parentheses if it's got a minus sign or a plus sign, and you see if those can be rewritten as in factored form. So I've got x to the second minus 1. Okay. Well, that's an obvious DOPS. I mean, I'll show the whole process, but some of you probably can pick up on that right off the bat. Okay, GCF's 1, so you're not going to do it. You have a minus. What times itself is 1? 1 times 1. What times itself is x second? X, x. What times itself is 1? 1 times 1. So it'll be 1x, 1x, 1, 1, and I end up dropping the 1s off the x's. So you replace this with this. You have to factor the bottoms to do a common denominator. Okay, x plus 1, you think we can do anything with that? I mean, it's two terms, so it'd be GCF DOPS. Not seeing the x, no negative, just be 1, and that's a plus, so it can't be a DOPS, and x isn't to the second anyway. So this one just drops down. Over here, though, this is still empty. Okay, so your common denominators. So the first, you have a factor of x plus 1 in parentheses. You have a parentheses factor of x minus 1, nothing, and then another x plus 1, which I've already got. So x plus 1s, you have 1, 0, and 1. So I think that middle one needs 1 so that it matches the others. And put parentheses behind what's up there. X minus 1, 1, 0, 0. So these last two need an x minus 1. Now, in an equals, in an equation, once you get the common denominator set and they're all the same, you're allowed to cross them out. Okay? So, I want you to line up the equals, a parentheses for that fraction, plus a parentheses for this fraction, then a parentheses for this fraction. Now this one's easy, it's just 12. Now this one, I'm going to allow you to do this on these problems, okay? You can only do it on the problems I say, though. The rest of its work's got to be shown. Go to a Google search, go to Math, Papa, Algebra calculator, okay? And I want the work shown just like this. Don't do the whole thing, just on the top of that fraction, okay? Okay, so you're going to go 2, then x plus 1, then x minus 1, close the parentheses. It's going to be essentially 2x plus 2 and then the FOIL with x minus 1, but 2x second minus 2, okay? Then over here, 3x times x minus 1 is going to be 3x squared minus 3, but I'll put it in. 3x second minus 3x, okay? Okay, now make your equation a little bit smaller, okay? Put what's there on the right side, nothing simplifies there. Now over here you got constant, x second, constant. So I start with x second, then constant. So we have 2 for x second, constant, you have 12 and negative 2, that's 10. Now that the parentheses are gone, what do you have for x? you have x second, and you've also got x to the first. So you can't use your linear properties, you have to use your factor properties. So there's going to be two answers because x second's the highest. Factoring properties, you pick a side to clear, okay? If you have x second on both sides, clear the side with the smaller one. So I'm going to minus 2x second from the 3x second, then I minus 10, and that doesn't go anywhere but at the end. So I turn the equation around, we have x second, x, constant. So you have 3 minus 2 is 1, negative 3, and negative 10. Now you have three terms, you write them in factored form, GCFT. Okay, so there's no x on the end, there's no negative in front, 1, 3, and 10's 1. Get out of here. 1 times negative 3 is negative 10, okay? So that's going to be a positive negative, it's a mismatch of the signs, and we have to add to try to get to the negative 3, okay? Okay, 10 divided by 1 is 10, that's negative 9. 10 divided by 2 is 5, there's your negative 3. Your a is just simply a 1x to the second, so if you want to do the full throttle, you can. Or you can just go xx, you know that's what it's going to end up as when you put a 1 in front of your x's. It doesn't simplify, neither one of them simplify because 1's the smallest. Take the 1's off, and you bring these over here. X plus 2, x minus 5 equals 0, and then you got your factors f1, f2. So x plus 2 could equal 0, or x minus 5 could equal 0. So you minus 2, and you get negative 2. You plus 5, and that's positive 5. Okay. Now story problems. I've connected on 18 of 25 serves. How many consecutive serves do I need to make to raise my average to 85%? Key being average, okay? So you make an equals, it's a proportion, just two ratios on each side. You don't need that third added in there. Because the average I'm supposed to get to 85%. To make the percent a ratio, it's always over 100%. Now so far I've made 18 of 25. But 18 out of 25 is not equal, that's 72%. So I have to add to how many I make, but then that automatically then adds the same amount to how many I attempt. Because if I do another one, if I make my next one, I'm at 19, but I've done it 26 attempts, okay? If I make my next two, I'm at 20, but then that'd be out of 27, okay? Now, we don't need to do the common denominator method. You just go A, B, C, D. Circle the A and the B. You always circle that way because you're multiplying those. Okay, so A times B is equal to C times D. So A is 18 plus X. Put a 1 if you want. And B is 100. C is 85 and D is 25 plus X, or 1X. So with this plus, you have to distribute. You need to take 18 times 100, that's 1,800. Then you take the 1x times 100, and that's 100x. Okay, 85 times 25, 2,125. Then 85 times 1x is 85x. Now that the parentheses are gone, you have x, and that's all you have. You don't have any powers, so it's just one answer, and you always use linear properties. You don't clear one side of the equation in linear properties. If you have x on opposite sides, you just take out the smaller x. So 1,800 plus 15x, and then 2,125. Now you solve for the x. So you minus 1,800, minus 1,800. Linear properties means you're just getting the x variable by itself by doing opposite of the operations on the side of the x. 325 divide by 15, divide by 15. 325 divided by 15. Just put 22. Okay, that is the right answer. You'd be over that percentage, but it's good enough. Okay, next problem. Two planes travel for equal amounts of time. The first plane travels 600 miles. The second plane travels 750 miles. The second plane travels an average of 25 miles per hour faster than the first. What's the time? How much time are they in the air for? Now, this is distance, speed, time, distance, rate, time, the dirt table. Okay, this is the dirt table. Okay, so we're going to call this plane 1 and plane 2. So the distance, rate, and time. Remember what rate means, it's the per. Okay, distance are your miles. Okay, so I have 600 miles and 750 miles. Take those out. Now the per, it says the second plane travels 25 miles per hour faster than the first. Okay, so it means you go to the second plane. Okay, the one going more of a distance. It's got to be. It can't be up here. It's got to be the one with the higher distance. And you put a plus 25. What plus 25? I don't know. Okay, so I'll use R, and then this would just be R without it. Now the time. We know that the times are equal, but I don't know anything else about the times, but I know that time is distance divided by rate. Got to be in that order. So your distance here is 600, and your rate is just expressed as R, so you never actually get to divide. And over here, distance 750, and then R plus 25. Now set those equal to each other. And then what you do is your ABC. Okay, ABCD. You don't have to use the common denominator method, which is nice. Okay, so A gets times by B, C gets times by D. So the A is 600, and the B is R plus 25, be 1R. There's a plus there. C is 750, and then D is just R. So on this side, you just take 750 times R, that's 750R. Now over here with that plus, you have to take 600 times R to get 600R. Drop your plus, and then 600 times 25, 15,000. So I'm solving for R. We just have R, so it's again, there's one answer, linear properties, not square root though, because it's not R to the second. So you get your R's on the same side, take out the smaller one. Don't clear one whole side in linear properties. So it's 150R and then 15,000. Okay. So then you just divide by 150. And 15,000 divided by 150 gives me 100. Now that's not your hours, okay? What you have to do is go into the table and replace your R's, both of them, with 100. And then you'll find the time, okay? Well, 600 divided by 100 is 6. You can just divide the simpler one. Now, if you look at this, what's 100 plus 25? 125. So 750 divided by 125 is also 6. So they match. That's how to verify the answer. Okay, next one. Two friends can mow 4 fields in 5 hours. If one friend's mower, I misspelled that, goes twice as fast as the other, how long would it take them working separately? Okay. Now, these units in bold, okay, you have fields and hours. It's not a dirt problem. It's units. X is hours, Y is fields. So per fields per hour. We don't know that, so what I do if I don't know is I just make a table. Just one, because they're working together. X, Y. So X is hours, Y is fields. So 0, you can't go 1, 2 because you don't have the rate of change. Okay. then 4 fields in 5 hours. Now if you did 0 hours of work, that's 0 fields. So when they both start at 0, that goes right into a proportion. But you need a third one added because this is them working separately, combined together with what they can do together. Now, you're going to fill in the ratios with these units. Now the X unit has to be on bottom, the hours. The time has to be on bottom. And then fields is on top. And what we have is what they can do together, 4 fields in 5 hours. Now separately, if one guy took the day off, there'd still be 4 fields to mow. But the time it takes, we know that one's twice as fast as the other. So you put a times 2, and it's going to be at not plus 2, times 2, and then X. Now you can't do the A, B, C, D because you got this equals and there's 3 of them, okay? So you need to do your common denominator method. Okay, drop the tops. Nothing gets parenthesized. And on bottoms, none of those would get a parentheses either because that's times. You don't parenthesize a times operation. So X times 2, X, and 5. So now your common denominator, you have outer X, you have 2, another outer X, and then 5. So I have outer X, I have 1, 1, 0. So we need to get these so they all have 1. So I put times X, and it doesn't matter where it goes really, okay? 2, you have 1, 0, 0. So you need everything to have 1 too. So I have it in the first one. I need the denominator in the second one. And then times 2 times 2. Now the only thing missing is that 5. Okay. So 5 you have 0, 0, 1. So the third one has the 1. These ones need the 5. Okay, so you line up your equals. You make a parentheses. I mean, you can use a Papa math, but I mean 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 8 times 5 is 40. Okay. And then 4 times x is 4x. 4x times 2 is 8x. See, there's no long distribution. So we've got 8x. And then over here we got constant. Okay, so 60. So there's only x to the first power, so there's only one answer, and you apply linear properties. Okay. Well, this is x. We don't have x on opposite sides. Okay. You just need to divide both sides by 8. And 60 divided by 8 is going to be 7.5. So that's your first answer. Okay, 7.5 hours. So if x is 7.5, that's how long it would take him if he was working by himself. This guy here would be 7.5 times 2. You just multiply your first answer by 2 and you get 15. Okay, last problem. You can bike 10 miles per hour without the wind. To get to your destination is 20 miles. The trip there and back takes 2 hours. Find the wind speed, okay, miles per hour. So the table's there for you. Distance, that's your miles. So it's 20 miles there, 20 miles back, and then the total's 40. I don't really do anything with the 40, but it's there. Wind speed, speed, that's your per, that's like your rate. So 10 miles per hour without wind, okay, 10, 10, but when you go with the wind, it adds the wind speed, so I'll just put plus x, and then when you go against the wind, it subtracts that amount from your speed, minus x. You don't really put anything here. Okay, now the time, 2 hours, that's your total. There and back means it's your total, okay. You put equals. Now the time, you have to use the distance divided by your rate, okay, or the speed. Speed and rate mean the same thing. So it'd be 20 over 10 plus x. Then 20 over 10 minus x. Put a plus sign, and that's the equation. Underline that, so it's also a ratio. So you have to do the common denominator method, okay? CD. So extend your lines. Drop the tops. Nothing gets parenthesized on top. Bottom. Well, that goes into parentheses because of the plus symbol. That is a minus symbol. It goes in parentheses. Now, these cannot be factored, okay? The GCF's 1. It's not a difference of perfect squares, so we just bring them down just like they are. On these problems, you will not do any factoring. So you got 10 plus x in parentheses and 10 minus x. 1, 0, 0. Okay, so you got to get the second and the third so they have a 10 plus x. Remember, having a 10 minus x doesn't count. Subtraction is not commutative. Okay, so that's set. Now 10 minus x, 0, 1, 0. So we need these two to get a 10 minus x. That already has it. So with this, cancel the bottom, okay? All right, once you guys plug that into the math papa on the top, okay, parentheses for the first fraction plus the second equals the third. So 20 and then 10 minus x. It's going to be 200 minus 20x, but negative 20x plus 200. It just wrote it in the other order. That makes sense because it'd be negative 20x because it'd be negative 1x and then 20. Now we'll go over here. $20x plus 200. And you enter that in. Okay, so you have 2 negative 2x to the second plus 200. Alright, so this side is set. This side, you combine your like terms. You have x constant. So you go x constant. So negative 20 and 20 adds to 0. That takes that out. 200 plus 200 is going to be 400. Okay. Okay, now x has 2 answers. Okay. You have x second, but that's it. Okay, you don't have x to the first, just x second. You don't have x second, x, just x second. So there's 2 answers, but I don't have to do all the factoring nonsense because I can just do the linear properties where I get this by itself and then do the square root. Okay, so minus 200, that's 200. Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2, negative 100 equals x to the second. Now square root. What happens when you square root negative 100? You got a domain error, so that means invalid. Don't just write that without showing the work. It means this cannot happen.